A graven image of President Trump? Uh-oh, what are the evangelicals going to do now? Speaking of Protestantism, the Pope has spoken.
Faith without works is dead and has no power to save.
Cardinal Grech says these two married dudes will serve as special Vatican consultants to the Synodal Church. Cardinal Muller calls that heresy. Jimmy Martin says it's ginger peachy. And Bishop Fulton Sheen called it way back in 1947 when he said Satan will recruit the false prophet from the ranks of Catholic bishops. There's your state of emergency, folks. And speaking of the Society of St. Pius X, will the clans divide over the 1988 redo in Icone this coming July? All that and more tonight from the Remnant Underground. Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. I am Michael Matt. This is the Remnant Underground, and I'm astonished. Well, what's going on? MAGA evangelical leaders gather in Mar-a-Lago to bless and dedicate a gold statue dedicated to Donald Trump. Have you seen this?
Gold statue.
Gold statue. Here we go. Let's check it.
Hello, everybody. I want to thank you so much for being there today, and more importantly, for what you did. The statue is beautiful. You know, I saw it during the weekend. We had a big PGA tournament with a great champion, and all great champions, actually, but it was a great tournament, and I got to look at it very closely, and it's incredible.
Friends, I thought typically you did this sort of thing posthumously after the guy kicks off. I don't understand what's happening here. And see, this is the kind of thing. Everybody's hopelessly divided right now over politics. But I think we're overlooking the fact that everybody wants this to be better. We don't understand what we're seeing. This is crazy. It's like somebody is intentionally discrediting conservatism in our country for some reason. We don't know why, right? But we all want the same thing, whether you're Tucker Carlson or Marjorie Taylor Greene or Megyn Kelly, whoever you are. We're all on the same page. We all wanted America to be made great again. We all wanted the prospect of a better life for our children. Perhaps that they could grow up and buy a home instead of living in one of Klaus Schwab's apartment complexes, right? None of that seems to be happening. The price of gas and groceries and the cost of living is going up, up, up. And at the same time, there's nothing about this war that's going in a good direction. I mean, have you noticed, for example, the Iranians seem to be completely blissfully undaunted by two of the most powerful war machines on the planet lining up against them? Why is that? Why is that? Far from backing down, our Islamic friends seem to be emboldened by what's happening. And no one quite knows why. We're winning the war, we're losing the war, we're going to cut off, we're going to guard. Everything changes, the story changes every day. Well, maybe that's because the Iranians also see this as a spiritual war. Maybe they're pretty confident that the way things are going in the West, we're so rotten, we're so decadent, that they really don't have too much to fear from us. What if that's it? Because they believe in their religion. It's a false religion, as by our, of course, according to us, of course. But for them, it's very real. And they're ready to die for their religion, sort of like we used to be before it became unpopular and rigid and fanatical to talk about martyrdom. Well, that's what they're doing, and they seem to be quite invincible, even though their religion, their theology, is false. So what does this mean, friends? I mean, it seems to me it means that our side, the Trump administration, Bibi Netanyahu's administration, these guys are putting bombs up against a religion, an ideology. That's difficult, and it's not working because people on the other side are willing to die for what they believe. And so now we have, the Trump administration was trying to sort of graft religion onto this because no one can believe the truth, which is, of course, it's another neocon war. It's about land grabs and oil and money and power and greater Israel. But we can't leave it at that, so we're grafting on religion of some sort. The trouble is, Zionism is not a religion.
Well before Israel was established, early Zionist leaders cited biblical texts to envision an Israeli state that would stretch across the region. Theodor Herzl wanted the state of Israel to stretch from the Euphrates River in Iraq to the Nile in Egypt. Even when Zionist leaders accepted the 1947 UN partition plan, they saw it as a temporary tactical move. Israel's first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, made clear this was just a step toward eventually gaining control of all of the land he envisioned as Israel. In other words, what Zionists agreed then could later be expanded by force. In the War of 1948, Israel expanded the land it controlled far beyond the UN partition lines, and it ensured a Jewish majority in the Nakba by expelling more than 80% of the Palestinian population. In 1967, Israel seized the West Bank, Gaza, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai. And ever since, it has used facts on the ground, settlements, outposts, and military zones to keep expanding its territory across the West Bank.
So it's very sweet that so many people on our side believe that this is just about our elder brothers trying to have the right to their own little piece of property where they get to practice their religion in peace, and we should just leave them alone. Well, that's just steeped in ignorance, friends. And it's an ignorance that's being fed every night by the folks on TV. But this is not what's happening in Israel right now, Lebanon, and God knows where it's going to end. This is about a temporal land grab. It's about temporal power, not the Jewish religion. And this is why, again, religious Jews, who we've been, as I say, remind you every single time we shoot, we've been quoting down here from the beginning, religious Jews are just as opposed to this as we are.
Judaism is subservience to God. That's what it's all about. It's a religion of 3,000 years, while Zionism is a mere 150 years. It's a transformation to nationalism, to have a piece of land. It's a political movement. It's a materialistic movement. It was started by Jews who were non-religious, and they're simply incorporating, using the name Israel, using the Star of David, and claiming that it's a God, it's given to them by God. And we who are following the Torah, who are true to the Torah, stand up adamantly refuting what they're saying. The Torah clearly states that we shall not kill, we shall not steal, and the whole concept is strange, is totally antithetical to our teachings, contradictory. The Jewish community had been living together with the Muslim community and the Christian community, and since this movement started, and since they gained hold in the land and eventually got rule over the land, there's been endless bloodshed. But the world doesn't seem to take into regard the 75 years that every day almost you have Palestinian death and suffering. But we as Jews do take this into consideration. We say this is clearly a rebellion against God, and it hurts us more than usual because it's being done in our name.
And the irony of this is, as we've shown again so many times, and I think it's worth repeating, the irony is, guess who agrees with the rabbi? Pope St. Pius X, who told Theodore Herzl, the founder of Zionism, who did not believe in God, to pound sand when he was talking about reclaiming Jerusalem for the elder brothers, right? So whether you like Pope Leo or not, he's right about this.
Self-defense has traditionally always been allowed by the church. So to talk about just war today, it's a very complex problem, and you have to analyze it on many levels. But ever since the entrance into the nuclear age, the whole concept of war has to be reevaluated in terms today.
Now, the knee-jerk reaction, if you've been listening to Mark Levin or Sean Hannity, is to say, oh, he's just a radical leftist, man, that they're going to come after us with these nuclear bombs. Well, we got to get them first. Well, this is not Christian, first of all. And just because the world has gone insane and turned itself into a global killing machine does not mean that we have the right, as followers of Jesus Christ, to ascribe Christian morality, to say Christian morality would approve what's happening to us, to this civilization. I mean, the church's teaching on just war, Leo's quite right. It goes back to broadswords and shields and war horses. Giddy up, right? Men nobly meeting on a battlefield, a few thousand maybe, to decide who was going to take the victory lap. Right? That's a little different. And all of those wars were not necessarily as pure as history would have us believe, but that's a lot different than what we have today. And so Leo is right. And so we can ask ourselves the question, let's just slow it all down when it comes to the war machine, right? Right? Would Jesus Christ actually approve and bless this?
A signature mushroom cloud rising over wide-scale death and devastation. Thousands were killed outright. Radioactive black rain poisoning countless more. 3 days after Hiroshima, the U.S. unleashed a second bomb on Nagasaki, hastening Japan's surrender and ending the war at a price of nearly 250,000 lives.
And that what we just saw was 80 years ago. It's nothing. It's a little firecracker compared to what they have now. Imagine what they can do. We actually don't have to imagine it, do we? Our greatest ally is showing us exactly what they can do now, 80 years after Hiroshima. You know, look at this. These are people's homes. Whether they share our religion or not, they used to live there. They were raising their children there. They went to sleep in those apartment complexes and homes every night. They lived their lives. They worshiped their God right there. Look what happened to it. It's destroyed. Tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 of them are dead, including 30,000 children. To suggest that Jesus Christ somehow wants this to continue, friends, or would justify, bless, and approve this, is blasphemy. Our Lady of Fatima warned, famously, prophesied, that there would be the annihilation of nations. We wondered what she was referring to. Now we know. This is not of Christ. And anyone who claims otherwise, and then claims to be following Jesus Christ, in my opinion, is a bloody con man.
Sadly, the power of God unto salvation, which is the gospel of Jesus Christ, has been overshadowed and in some cases replaced entirely by a false gospel.
Jesus said, I came that you might have and enjoy your life and have it in abundance to the full until it overflows.
Now you drive a wonderful car and you have a plane and you have all of the accoutrements of success. How do you explain that?
One, he allows your cup to run over. I don't think the issue with clergy is what you drive or where you live. It's more how you got it.
And in this video, trusted teachers such as Justin Peters, John MacArthur, Voddie Baucham, and John Piper exposed the perversion of the true gospel supplanted by the demonic lies of the prosperity gospel made mainstream around the world by mega-rich pastors and false teachers like T.D. Jakes, Kenneth Copeland, Creflo Dollar, Joyce Meyer, Juanita Bynum, Paula White.
What happened to our civilization, to our society, that we would look at that and see something besides complete charlatan behavior? Snake oil salesmen, con men, getting rich off the gospel. This is the prosperity gospel being preached by millionaires like this person.
I want $100,000 to come in. I want $100,000. There are 10 people that could give $10,000. There's 100 people that could give $1,000. Get a check, make it payable to Paula White Ministries.
And yet that same person is considered the most powerful Christian pastor in America.
People are like, how are you? You know what we say in the White House? You run into people, and I'm telling you, it's the greatest pressure you could ever imagine. There are decisions that are being made that I literally tremble in fear when I have to go brief president or do something with Secretary Rubio or Chief of Staff, because I recognize what will be done, what will be said in meetings will not just impact 5, 10 people, millions.
Yeah. Now you and I can look at that, we can look at this, and we can say this is diabolical. Here we go again, this fascination with exorcism, and at a time where the Catholic Church is completely collapsing, everyone's talking about demonology and exorcism. And you know this is crazy, right? Even more than demonic, it's straight up nuts. It's crazy. What kind of a person would fall for this? What is happening to us? If you're a fan of Donald Trump, please look at this carefully. This is one of his chief advisors. When you see this, it's no wonder. You say you're afraid of Islam. Okay, well, you think Islam's quaking in their boots over Pastor Paula? No wonder Islam is getting stronger, friends. They just keep getting exponentially stronger. When this is happening, when the constant neocon wars are happening, what happens at the end of the day, at the end of the day, at the end of the year, at the end of the decade? What happens? Islam is stronger than ever. Why? Because these would-be Christian crusaders are making a mockery of Christianity. So here's the thing, friends. We need to come out from among them, like St. Paul says. Stop playing along with this. Now, I know and I sympathize. I know a lot of you still support Trump, just like I used to do, just like Tucker Carlson used to do. Still support Trump because we want it to be better. We're projecting, right? We want it to be good for us and for our kids and for our country. And so we're worried, yeah, but Iran was going to nuke us, man. They're the state sponsor of terror, right? Well, maybe they were going to nuke us, but probably not.
When you have the 18 intelligence agencies saying without a doubt that Iran is not working towards a nuclear weapon, and the Defense Intelligence Agency doing battle damage assessment, which is what the DIA really specializes in, is having these military-based assessments, that's what I'm going to go with. Being influenced by the IAEA or by another government, Israel in this case, saying like, oh no, even though you conducted Midnight Hammer and your 18 intelligence agencies say that their nuclear capability is gone, they're still somehow digging out from the rubble, and they're going to be able to assemble 10 bombs in 2 weeks. Again, sorry, I'm going with with what the director of national intelligence said, and she's saying that based on the research and the analysis and the rigorous debate of 18 intelligence agencies.
So even if you believe that Joe Kent is dead wrong about that, there is one thing that you absolutely must admit if you're still a supporter of Donald Trump and if you're a rational human being. You have to admit that you never voted for this.
Around 2,000 vessels, 23,000 civilians stranded in the Gulf since February. Unwitting hostages caught in the crosshairs of America's war with Iran.
They're sitting ducks. They're isolated, they're starving, they're vulnerable.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio said these men and women had been left for dead.
And so President Trump, as he always does, stepped up and answered the calls for their help.
They told us that answer was Project Freedom.
As a direct gift from the United States to the world, we have established a powerful red, white, and blue dome over the strait.
A dome that had come down by the end of the same day. Last night, Donald Trump on Truth Social suddenly said that progress towards a complete and final agreement with representatives of Iran meant Project Freedom will be paused.
Now, you may think that you voted for that because they've gotten you so freaked out about the bomb and the nukes that Iran is supposedly getting, even though no one believes that they actually seriously were about to get those bombs. Still, you may think you voted for it now, but that's only because you've been gaslit. Everybody has been. Because you remember what you voted for, right? You voted to make America great again, okay? So far, this little tilt in Iran that nobody wanted, that nobody voted for, has cost $65 billion. Billion with a B. And that's only the dollar amount they're telling us about. The White House wants more. The White House says they want another $200 billion for this. For what? They already destroyed Iran's nuclear capabilities, right? What is this for? I mean, we know what it's for. It's for the Greater Israel Expansion Project. They have to get rid of powerful neighbors. Can you imagine if you lived in a neighborhood and Israel was the guy down the street? Bombing everybody, blowing the hell out of everything constantly, day and night, right? They're not popular. But setting that aside, $265 billion. Can you imagine what could have been done to help our country get great again with $265 billion? Because here's what our country looks like. Here's like what many cities in America right now, here's what they look like. Does anybody care what's happening to our country? No? So I used to support Donald Trump because I thought he was going to fix all that, what we just saw, or at least try. I thought he was going to stay home and make America great again, like he said. Because you know who agreed with me that that's what should happen?
Our country's falling to pieces. We have $19 trillion in debt. We have infrastructure that's a disaster. Our roadways, our airports, our schools, everything. We have to start thinking about ourselves. We're pouring trillions of dollars into the Middle East, and we have nothing for it. We have nothing.
I was shouting from the pages of this newspaper back in 2003 that the neocons were lying to us. They were lying us into a war with Iraq at that point, right? And do you know who agreed with me about that?
They lied. Okay. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
We were saying that the neocons, the wars, the Zionist wars in Israel's name have done nothing but completely destabilize the entire Middle East and the rest of the world. And guess who agreed with us on that?
The world would be better off with Saddam Hussein
100%.
and Gaddafi in power.
100%. Now, as far as Assad is concerned,
what about the human rights abuses?
Let's talk. Well, you don't think they're happening now? They're worse now than they ever were. People are getting their heads chopped off. They're being drowned. Right now, they're far worse than they were ever under Saddam Hussein or Gaddafi.
So here's a question. Why are you upset if you're still supporting Donald Trump? Why are you upset with us for agreeing with Donald Trump? That's what we thought he was going to do. That's what he said he was going to do. Tucker Carlson isn't your enemy. Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't your enemy. I'm not your enemy. Whoever is advising Donald Trump to abandon true conservatism and go off in these neocon pro-Zionist wars all over the world, those are the people who you should be criticizing. You should be going after guys like Mark Levin, who are promoting this and encouraging Donald Trump to continue. Because at the end of the day, all Trump voters, now, today, can agree that nobody wanted war in Iran, including Donald Trump. So you see what's happening? We use the term psyop probably too often, too much, but it's true. Something's happening to us. We will accept anything at this point from the good cop. And the only thing we can say, well, at least it isn't the bad cop. But good cop, bad cop scenario, what is it? Those two cops are together. They're playing you, right? They're not two separate entities, one good, one bad, one black hat, one white hat. They're doing the same thing in order to push their common agenda. And meanwhile, while this is going on, we've been pushed. Our country, our beautiful country, is becoming a police state.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It does not.
Not wittingly.
A month later, the whistleblower, Edward Snowden, revealed that Clapper had lied. Snowden revealed that Clapper and others were using the Patriot Act to spy on virtually every American. Snowden revealed that the secret FISA court was allowing a single court order to command the collection of millions of Americans' personal phone data.
Yeah. Rand Paul's not your enemy. He's speaking the truth. Orwell was right. You cannot get away from his cameras now. They're everywhere. You have no privacy left. Soon you'll be unemployed if the people like Elon Musk and the robots get their way. You won't have any money. You won't be able to buy anything. This is the direction in which they're not threatening us, they're promising us. That's what's going to happen soon. You won't have a job. The entire country, the United States of America, will be full of unemployed people. Well, we've seen how well that works out, haven't we, in the projects of the big cities. People with nothing to do. Oh, they're just poetry, sculpture, right? Architecture, that's all they do. Not. They're going to turn our whole country into a prison camp. And they're promising us that we are going to own nothing and be so happy. You can't even get away from Big Brother as of 2027 when you're driving your own car by yourself.
Imagine a world where you get in your own car to go for a drive, but before you can start the engine or shift out a park, an artificial intelligence system is scanning your face, analyzing your behaviors, and determining if you're alert enough to drive. It sounds like a far-off science fiction story, but it's not. It's happening soon.
In 2021, the federal government voted through a new safety initiative saying that every new car sold starting in 2027 could be required to monitor the person behind the wheel.
Friends, this is Luciferian. What's happening? Nobody right now is trying to make America better or great again. And the terrifying thing is that right now, even us, because in my opinion, and I hope many of you share this viewpoint, there is only one way back, and that is the traditional Catholic counter-revolution. I truly believe that. It built Christendom, right? Built the greatest civilization that there ever has been in history, right? The only way out of this dystopian, Orwellian nightmare is to get back to the social kingship of Jesus Christ, right? The touchstone of which is the traditional Latin Mass. We've gone over this so many times. And yet, at this particular moment, where we really seem to be at a civilizational crossroad, right? Turning point. Here we are. The entire traditional Catholic movement is months away from the biggest divide the clans moment since 1988, with the consecration of bishops in the Society of St. Pius X. Whether you're society or not, this is going to impact all of us. So what's the Vatican going to do if the SSPX consecrate bishops without papal mandate on July 1st, 2026? What will you do? I have no idea why this is so divisive already, because if you believe the Society of St. Pius X is in schism, it is because in 1988, the Archbishop Lefebvre consecrated bishops without papal mandate. Now, they're going to do it again because their bishops are aging or dying off, and they're going to consecrate bishops again. But if you thought they were in schism all along, what happens on July 1st shouldn't change anything at all for anyone. It's just the society making sure that they can continue to do the important work of Catholic restoration, right? So why are we talking about this? Who's triggering us? Why are we all turning on each other? We got to talk about this. We'll hopefully be able to do that here in a few moments. I want to talk about tonight's sponsor, which is Sanctifica. Thank God, the app that makes you a better Catholic. It's the #1 traditional Catholic app with tons of great content, daily prayers, the Divine Office, butlers, lives of the saints, of course, the Holy Rosary prayed by Bishop Athanasius Schneider, and so much more. There's no fluff, just the works of the saints and doctors of the Church that have been the staples of Catholic faithful for centuries. Sanctifica, by the way, has a new feature that allows you to set reminders and track those 9 First Fridays and the 5 First Saturday devotions. So very important right now. So Sanctifica keeps count for you month by month. No excuse not to do it. So put the power of Catholic tradition in your hands and download for free from the App Store or Google Play. Sanctifica, I guarantee you, you're going to love this app. It's going to make, if you're like me, it'll make you a better Catholic. That's sanctifica.com. So as I say, everything is basically happening at once. Lots of upheaval. And interestingly enough, we're still talking about the Latin Mass, and the Latin Mass is going to be the conversation, the topic of conversation for the summer of 2026. That and the SSPX consecrations. Where does Pope Leo stand in all this? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out. And people say, what are you going to do over at the... Oh, we're not going to do anything. We're not going to change anything at all. We'll continue to do what we've always done for 60 years here in the Remnant and at Remnant TV. We will continue to give you the truth, do everything we can to cover what happens with an eye on applying pressure wherever we can. Our point and purpose is not to find out every little thing that Leo does wrong so that we can denounce him as an anti-pope. Our point and purpose is to acknowledge the diabolical disorientation that affects us all, certainly affects the Vatican, do everything we possibly can to be a reminder of the only way back, which is the traditional Catholic restoration, the proclamation of the kingship of Jesus Christ. That's it. Even when it comes to the Christian Zionist heretics themselves.
As St. James wrote to the early Christian community, faith without works is dead and has no power to save.
Now, that may seem like a little thing, but actually it's not. And it's very odd that Pope Leo picks this time to say that, to roll that out, to trot that out. You remember, Martin Luther called that's James's epistle. Martin Luther called it an epistle of straw. Why? Because it totally contradicts the Protestant doctrine of justification by faith alone.
Faith without works is dead and has no power to save.
When he says something like that, yes, highlight it, send it out there. The world needs to hear it. So good for you, Leo, Your Holiness. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop there.
So, just this week, Study Group 9, which was tasked with looking at what was originally called controversial issues, but they changed to emerging issues, including LGBTQ ministry, was finally published. And it's a pretty big deal. Why is it a big deal? Well, first of all, they have included the testimony of two married gay Catholics. All right. So they not only listened to the testimony of two married gay Catholic men, and really, as far as I know, this is the first time that on this level that LGBTQ people have been listened to, and maybe more importantly, that their testimonies have been published. So,
and this is the problem with the modern Vatican. Who's in charge? Who's on first? Who's running this caucus show?
Study groups.
Study groups, the little groups at the round tables, you'll remember.
We go to tables where the Spirit is, and we sit at tables, round tables, in small groups, and we listen.
Now this, as Robert Morrison, Remnant columnist Robert Morrison, my good friend, points out, Cardinal Grech and the Synodal team there are saying the quiet part out loud, because they're calling for a paradigm shift away from so-called rigid Catholic doctrine and replacing immutable truth with lived experiences. Oh boy. Anathema sit, says Cardinal Gerhard Muller, right? He says, quote, the private or even paraliturgical blessing of same-sex and opposite-sex couples in irregular relationships is based on the heretical denial of the revealed truth that God created human beings as man and woman, end quote. Thank you, Your Eminence. So who's on first in the Vatican? Let me get this straight, because I can't believe they're serious. The world right now is burgeoning. It's on the edge of destruction, of World War III. People are dying all over the place. The economy has been tanked. There's genocides going on everywhere, inside the womb and out. Mass apostasy. Churches closing all over the place. And in the state, of course, is Orwell on steroids, only with a robotic twist, I guess. And what's the Vatican's response to all of this?
Be a whole-bodied listener. Be a whole-bodied listener.
That's a slight exaggeration, but that's what it looks like. That's about as theologically astute as they are for real. I know, I've been to the synods on synodality. They are, hands down, the most pointless and ridiculous exercise in which I've ever seen adults participate in my life. And meanwhile, Christian persecution is rising up all over the place, right? Churches closing all over the place. Islam, Muslims buying up Catholic churches all over America right now, right? Marriage, the family in 5-alarm fire worldwide, just collapsing, right? Transsexualized kids, world hunger, the economic collapse. Even if you want to throw in the climate crisis that they're so happy about, right? Put it all together. And Cardinal Grech and his team, with the apparent blessing of Pope Leo XIV, is all proud of his stupid new document that empowers sodomite pretty boys to change the Catholic Church's teaching forever. And if they don't have enough power, they're going to bring in their menopausal mothers, who are going to whine and complain that the church is intolerant of their gay sons. That's what the synodal lunatics want us to take seriously right now. And I would say, how out of touch can these people possibly be? Who do they imagine is taking any of this seriously? Again, in the middle of burgeoning World War III. Do they actually think there are people around the world taking notes? Yes, Cardinal Grech? What was that, Your Eminence? Could you spell that? You know, nobody cares, Your Eminence. When are you going to get that through your Maltese skull? Nobody cares. And while these guys are doing their full body listening dance, who is it that's actually going to stand up for the people of the world? For the disenfranchised, orphaned Catholics all over the world who are leaving this stupid synodal church in record numbers, you know? Yes, there's a little bit of a pushback, blowback, people converting to the Catholic faith, but have you noticed the type of liturgical parishes they're converting to? They're tradition-minded, tradition-leaning. They're Latin Mass centers, right? They're very, very conservative Novus Ordo churches. People are looking for something right now. Everything else is collapsing. Nobody's converting to synodality. And you have prophecies, predictions that this day would come. Bishop Fulton Sheen, who I'm thrilled, again, the Vatican, who is on first, because now the Vatican is going to beatify Bishop Fulton Sheen. Thank God. That's wonderful, right? Very happy for that. But evidently, Bishop Fulton Sheen had Cardinal Grech types in mind when he said this:
Satan will set up a counter church, which will be the ape of the Catholic Church. It will have all the notes and characteristics of the church, but in reverse and emptied of its divine content. We are living in the days of the apocalypse, the last days of our era. The two great forces, the mystical body of Christ and the mystical body of Antichrist, are beginning to draw battle lines for the catastrophic contest. The false prophet will have a religion without a cross, a religion without a world to come, a religion to destroy religions. There will be a counterfeit church, worldly, ecumenical, and global. It will be emptied of all divine content. It will be the mystical body of the Antichrist. The mystical body on earth today will have its Judas Iscariot, and he will be the false prophet. Satan will recruit him from our bishops.
Have they heard any of this? Do they realize what Bishop Fulton Sheen said? Did they ever read Pius X, Notre Charge Apostolique, which 116 years ago, the great St. Pius X said, indeed, the true friends of the people are neither revolutionaries, Cardinal Grech, nor innovators. They are promoters of tradition. End quote. They are the traditionalists. This is what Pius X said. So fellow promoters of tradition, friends of the people, what are we going to do? What are we going to do this summer? Was Pope Pius X, was Bishop Fulton Sheen, were these men right to put trust and faith and confidence in us that there would be lay people, there would be traditionalists, even in the middle of revolution, who would do the right thing, who would keep the faith, who would stand up and resist, not leave the church, but yes, resist and make a change, drag the priests and the bishops back in the direction of where they need to be as Catholic prelates?
Who is going to save our church? Not our bishops, not our priests and religious. It is up to you, the people. You have the minds, the eyes, the ears to save the church. Your mission is to see that your priests act like priests, your bishops like bishops, and your religious act like religious.
And so now if Pope Leo XIV, if he wants an international incident, well, another round of excommunications of tradition will certainly do the trick. You know? Because this is out of control now, friends. We know what's going on. It's deception. It's demonic what's happening. You remember these two guys? I see this picture a lot of times. Jimmy Martin blessing these two guys. I think they're already married. So that was the whole problem with Francis wanting to bless the gay unions. Many of those couples were already married civilly. All they wanted was a blessing, and so they ran with it. So these two guys became famous for doing that. Now, they have been invited, and I can't even believe this is happening. They have been invited, once again, by Cardinal Grech and his team, to the next Synodal meeting in Rome, in the Vatican. These two guys, okay? United in a union, a sodomitical union that cries to heaven for vengeance. They're going to be consulted, all right? Oh, that's okay, according to Cardinal Grech, according to the Vatican. Whereas this needs to be excommunicated. The 2,000-year-old liturgy of our faith has to be, there's no place for it in this new synodal church, right? And there's your state of emergency. So here's the thing, friends, and I'll close on this. Even if you're confused, you just heard about this, you just came into the traditional movement during COVID, now you hear about, disobeying the Pope, this is going to be awful. Even if you're not okay with what the SSPX is going to do, the Society of St. Pius X, the consecration of bishops, please, I would beg you, please, for God's sake and for the sake of your children, for the sake of the church, just keep it to yourself. Just keep it to yourself. You honestly have not been tracking these arguments as long as we have been. There's so much more to it than what you're being told by people who are just mad because they have a friend who's in the society or a family member in the society, and there's this ongoing spitting match over the society, right? And now they just want to tear it all down again with no thought whatsoever for the good that's come out for all of us in the society, outside the society, right? So the strategy should be, if you have a strategic bone in your body, let the Vatican think that the entire traditional Catholic movement, the entire traditional Catholic world will follow the Society of St. Pius X in a worldwide act of protest of this synodal abomination that's going on, right? It does not matter what you think of the SSPX. It doesn't even matter what your priest thinks, so please don't go bothering your priest to tell him, is it okay if we go to this when they're in the fraternity? You know, that doesn't work. That never works. It doesn't matter what I think of this. We can all, as adults, see the fruits of this. They're now 40 years in the making. 40 years of the Latin Mass restored. 40 years of the Latin Mass becoming the touchstone, the doctrinal touchstone of the faith, forming the souls and consciences of our children and the children of the world who would otherwise have been hopelessly lost, as the vast majority of young people have been over the past 50 years. Thus, all the closed churches, closed schools, broken families, right? The traditional Latin Mass movement been serving families, saving souls from the fires of hell, and that's what matters. That's what matters now. The faith itself, the souls of children, of our own children and grandchildren, that's what matters. We all know that. As I've told you so many times, I'm a diocesan Latin Mass guy. I've been going to the diocesan Latin Mass for 30 years. I love the Fraternity of St. Peter.
Sanctus, 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 Dominus Deus Sabaoth. It is the cross and the church that will guide you and make you understand that true love, sacrificial, ego coniugo vos in matrimonium, in nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
You know, but the reality is you can't evaluate. People say, well, the fraternity didn't have to disobey the Pope, so why do we even need this? This is crazy. Why don't we? Okay, well, that's a question steeped in ignorance, because you don't understand. For 30 years, the big complaint that people would level, critics of the Fraternity of St. Peter would level against the fraternity, is that they always showed up in these areas where there already was a Society of St. Pius X chapel. Why is that? It wasn't the fraternity's fault. The bishop, who thought the society was in schism, would invite the fraternity in. So the whole point and purpose of the fraternity was to offset the society. So you simply cannot, with a straight face, ask the question, well, the fraternity doesn't have to disobey, so why does the society? The two were like brothers, kind of feuding brothers. And the beautiful thing about what happened over the past 30 years is, despite the fact that these two brothers didn't necessarily agree, they didn't agree at all on strategy, didn't always get along, but despite the fact, the counter-revolution advanced, the Catholic counter-revolution advanced. More and more the number of traditional parishes quadrupled. If you just left it with the society, lots of people would never have found that. But the society provides the impetus, and always has, from Ecclesia Dei moving on, for the fraternity, for the Institute of Christ the King, for the diocesan parishes. So why would we be stupid? Why would we say, remove the thing that, through God writing straight with crooked lines, opened up the door to an explosion of the traditional Latin Mass movement, to a huge influx of families from the Novus Ordo who found in the fraternity, in the Institute, in the society, refuge from the crisis in the church. Why would we try to tamper with that? Ever since 1988, I've been saying to the Society of St. Pius, please, no, do not make a deal with the Vatican. As soon as that happens, this whole balance gets thrown off. And folks in the Vatican are then able to traditionis custodes the entire Latin Mass movement. Why? Because there's no Society of St. Pius X to provide an option. You see how it works? Strategically, leave it alone. And if in your conscience you think it's a mortal sin of schism to go along with the Society of St. Pius X, here's a thought. Don't go along with the Society of St. Pius X then. That's not for you. But there are many conscientious, good Catholics who have thought through this, who've spoken to the canon lords, who've spoken to the priests, and who have made a determination for the good of the faith of their children and themselves, their own souls, and they've gone this way, and they've benefited from it. Why are we trying to tear it down? Why? Because the devil would love to see the whole thing collapse. We cannot let that happen. We must remember the lessons learned since 1988. The Society of St. Pius X never formed the Petite Église, never crowned their own pope like was predicted. The Fraternity of St. Peter, Institute of Christ, they never went by ritual. They never embraced the new Mass, right? None of these things ever happened. And so we can look back over the past 4 decades and say this has all been working in the direction of truth, in the direction of light, in the direction of salvation of souls, in the direction of preserving the old faith.
It's not schismatic at all. And therefore we must correct the meaning of schismatic. In the last centuries, we had a kind of very reductive view of what is schismatic, a complete legalistic one. And we had a reductive view of what is obedience. We even absolutized obedience to the Pope, which is a creature, it's not God. Pope is not God. And really, de facto, I must state it, in the psychology of so many people, traditional or conservative, even bishops, cardinals, until our day, there is an implicit divinization of the Pope. I say implicit, not formal, not explicit, implicit. Therefore, any disobedience is suddenly labeled, you are schismatic, because you are disobedient. This was alien to the large tradition of the Church. This was completely alien to the fathers of the Church.
Don't you see, friends? Just give yourself a break. If you're new to this, or you're confused, or you're upset, or what, just give yourself a break. Just let it go. There are people in positions of authority in Christ's church, in the hierarchical structure of the church, who have spoken on this and who allow us to sort of calm down and stop with the mutual assured destruction and the circular firing squad over this issue. So we need to pray for a good resolution. Pray that the Vatican that does not proceed with this. Pray that Pope Leo himself, who's been showing signs of being interested in doing something constructive with the Society of St. Pius X, rather than just anathematizing, excommunicating, pray that he does. Don't let the Vatican divide us. Don't let them divide the clans over this issue. We've been at this for a long time. We know how to handle it. And good things are happening right now. Good things. In 2 weeks, God willing, I'm going to be walking the Chartres pilgrimage again for the 35th time. Okay? Something huge. 2 things, huge, are going to happen at the Chartres pilgrimage this year. I wish I could say what they are, but I don't want to jeopardize it, so I won't. But something big is going to happen. If you follow me on social media, I'll tell you all about it as soon as we possibly can from the road to Chartres. It's going to be big. There is one other thing that's going to happen. That's 3 altogether. The third thing I can tell you about, some of you may remember the scandal last year where the French bishops, for no reason at all, banned all private Latin masses in Paris and in Chartres over the Pentecost weekend. So all the priests that had come in from all over the world to walk the pilgrimage were not allowed on Thursday before Pentecost or Pentecost Tuesday to say Mass in Paris or in Chartres because the French bishops had forbidden it. God knows why, right? Nobody was allowed, no priest was allowed to have a private Mass in those 2 towns. This year, thanks be to God, and God knows why, that prohibition has been mysteriously lifted. This is big because it proves 2 things. 1, resistance is not futile, never futile. And 2, nothing can stop the Latin Mass, the sacrifice of Calvary, which redeemed the world in the very beginning, and which in its unbloody sacrifice of the altar, reenactment of the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, will save the world in the end. So we have no reason, friends. Do not give up hope. Do not let them divide us. Unite the clans. God's got this. Just keep the faith and hang on to tradition as if your very soul depends on it. Because you know what? It does.